ones that are closest to us are the American Falls. The skinny ones are the Bridal Veil Falls. And further back, we've got the Canadian Falls. They fall about 188 feet into the main of the mist pool below. And the American Falls fall between 70 and 110 feet because they've got different elevation levels along their crest line there. Coming up on our right here, we can see a brick wall at the edge of the escarpment and some tunnels. That's all that's left of the Sholkoff power plant, which collapsed in 1956. Foundation was made heavily of limestone, which is very porous rock, so a lot of water had gotten into it. The slow seeping at the back wall started at the beginning of the day, which turned into the collapse of the entire structure by the end. And unfortunately, of the 40 employees, one of them did die that day. And the unfortunate story is that he forgot something and went back to pick it up. So it was very, very sad. And as I mentioned earlier this morning, 6 million cubic feet of water are going over the Canadian Falls every minute. To put that in perspective, that's about 1 million bathtubs worth. So it's a lot of water. You guys were experiencing that if you took the main of the mist. So it's probably difficult for you guys to imagine that entire top area freezing over and no water going over for 30 hours. But it did happen, as my suggestion may have let you guys know. In the 1800s, for 30 long hours, as I said, there was absolutely no water going over the edge of the falls. And that was because high winds had set the ice fields of Lake Erie in motion, and they froze together. They created a giant ice dam that prevented any water from going over the edge for those 30 hours. So residents who are living in Niagara here, they're very, very used to the booming sound of the falls. So they were a little weirded out by the eerie silence. They all came out to see what was going on, and a large crowd was drawn. People who were brave enough actually walked or rode horses over the dry riverbed until we got a little bit later. It warmed up a bit and the ice dam broke. The falls were back in business. Nobody was hurt during this time, fortunately. Very, very good for that. And since then, the falls have never frozen over again because of annual ice booms that are put in place near the edge of the falls to prevent any of that ice from freezing together at the top. However, a lot of it does go over the falls, and it will freeze down there, creating a yearly phenomenon that we call the ice bridge. And that's just basically the same thing. Those ice fields go over the falls, they freeze together, and they create a very tall, jagged structure. It can reach about 10 stories tall, actually. And what they used to do with that is they would put up kiosks, and people would sell their merchandise and food and things like that, until in 1912, when the bridge broke and 2 people were carried to their deaths on the Niagara River. So since then, all walking has been prohibited on the ice bridge. You guys have probably heard a couple stories of the Niagara Daredevils. If you try to go over the falls, you get the coveted title of Daredevil, well, only if you're successful in going over the falls. There have been 16 different attempts by 14 different people to go over the falls. That means 2 people did go over twice. Their names were Stephen Trotter and David Monday, and they actually were lucky enough to survive both times. If you guys heard on the boat, the first person to go over the falls was a 63-year-old woman. That was in 1901. Her name was Annie Taylor. It was in October, and she went over in a wood barrel. What they actually did before Annie went over the falls was that they did a test run with a cat. They set the cat in the barrel, and when the cat was mostly unharmed, they decided to send old Annie over, and she was fine. It is very much illegal to attempt to go over the falls, so nobody get any ideas, but the most dangerous vessels to attempt to go over the falls in, that is the ones that people have died in, are things like jet skis and kayaks. Your safest bet is probably a wooden barrel, such as the one that Annie was using. Still not recommending it. Over on our right here, you can see these two rock walls, that are separating the river. That's called the escarpment, and it's part of the gorge, which is just what all the water is sitting in. It's very similar to a canyon, and it was carved out by the falls as they moved their way back over the past about 12,000 years. They started about 11 kilometers north here, but offers. Tickets are about $100, but you do get to go up into the air and you get a bird's eye view of the area, and you actually get to go over the falls the opposite way. So they take you from the underside and they take you over, and you get a really nice view of that. So it's just here on our left. They may even be launching a helicopter, it looks like it. And the helicopter was involved in a daring rescue a couple weeks ago. 4 American teenagers were out on a joyride. They got a little bit too close to the edge of the falls. When you get too close to the edge, there are motion alerts sent to the police officers. So 2 American police officers were sent out after them. Unfortunately, they got a little bit too close to the edge as well and had to drop anchor. So the owner of the helicopter got a call at about 3 o'clock in the morning saying he was going to have to rescue these 6 people from the top of the falls. Fortunately, all of the pilots of the helicopter have to go through a certain specific kind of training so that they'll be ready for this particular situation. So they got one person each, one at a time, one by one. They got everybody off of the boat and onto dry land. And that actually only happened a couple weeks ago. So I'm surprised the helicopter tickets haven't gone up in price yet. We are now heading down the Niagara Parkway, which is just a road that goes along